And then we have the monounsaturated fats, olives and olive oil, nuts and avocados. And again, although our body produces monounsaturated fats, they are still a very important part of our cell membranes. So if you get them from good sources, it's still very beneficial. And we know that olive oil is very healthy. It's not as easy to get in Thailand, but you have access to other very good fats. Just to remind you that although cashews are very common, especially in Thailand also, they are not a nut. And so of all of the nuts that you can eat, those are the ones that I would actually eat the less. And then you have the essential fatty acids, or called also EPHAs or EPHAs. And those are the ones our body does not produce. And there are only two, omega-6 and omega-3. Omega-6, linoleic acid. You can get it from seeds, sunflower, pumpkin, hemp, from nuts like walnuts, almonds, and cashews, and avocados. And again, cashews is not considered a nut, it's actually a seed that grows outside of the fruit, but it's rich in omega-6. And then we have the omega-3s, ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, which has been talked a lot about fish oils and omega-3s, but the truth is, if we get proper omega-6, not from adulterated oils, but from seeds and nuts, we won't need to supplement with omega-3s. We can get our omega-3s from chia and flax seeds, walnuts, and even some vegetables, Brussels sprouts, and avocados. And if you're paying attention, there's a commonality in all of these fats, and that commonality is the avocado. Avocado has the nearly perfect fat profile. It has saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated fats. So it really mimics almost the membrane of your cells. So it's a great addition to your salads, your soups. It's creamy. You can even put it on your smoothies. It's a great, great fat. And many people ask me, well, if I'm not eating animal products and I'm not drinking milk, where do I get my protein? And this guy will tell you, really. And the reason is, if you look at a gorilla and the amount of muscle a gorilla has, and it's very similar in genetic to us, and it only eats leaves and fruits and things that it finds in the jungle and not animal products. So where does he get his protein? Well, all the essential amino acids are present in plants. That's why animals have it, because they get them from plants. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them. So we don't really need to eat animals in order to get our protein. And it's easy to look at the biggest, strongest animals in nature, like elephants, rhinos, horses, and ability that they have to build muscle, their longevity, their endurance. They are all the big examples that you probably want to look for. So if you want to be healthy, you don't need to eat animal protein. And for those of you who still have doubts, here it's a good chart that shows us that spinach, about 50% of the calories in spinach are protein. And 45% of the calories in broccoli are protein. And then if you come here down to the chart, you have beef, 85% lean beef, that has 37% of its calories in protein, so it's less. And people say, oh, so I just eat spinach and I'll get enough protein. It's not like that, because if you eat 500 calories of spinach and half is protein, and you eat 500 calories of beef and half is protein, and 37% is protein, but you'd have to eat a lot of spinach to get 500 calories and not so much as beef. So what I tell people is you have to eat a little bit of everything, and especially nuts and seeds will help you to give you much more protein, because they also have more calories. So if you were to eat all your protein from spinach, you would have to eat maybe almost 2 kilos of spinach a day, and I think that's way too much. So diversify and introduce different plant sources of protein within your diet. Even fruits have a lot of, lemons have 16% of their calories in protein. So just diversify and make it colorful. And now just jumping quickly into Dr. Lodi's recommendations from last week to prevent the COVID-19. If you remember, we recommended you to have vitamin A, C, D3, magnesium, zinc, selenium, manganese, and then propolis, green tea, and water. These last three, it's easy for you to get. So propolis is actually what the bees produce to as a form of a wax that they use to build their colonies. And you can buy it in a spray form that would be probably better for you. It's been proven to be very good when fighting upper respiratory tract infections. Then green tea, you can drink throughout the day, 2-3 cups a day, and plenty of water, so about 3 liters of water a day. It also depends what you're eating, so don't make it, learn how to listen to your body here when drinking water, and drinking also when you're thirsty. Now let's talk about the vitamins. Vitamin A, you can get it from foods like dandelion greens, carrots and carrot greens, parsley, broccoli, sweet potato, kale, spinach, pumpkin and squash, and so on. So although you can still want to supplement with some pills, you can still get it from foods. So try to eat more of these foods, not just because of COVID-19, but also because we find that most of our cancer patients are deficient on vitamin A. Most of them are also deficient in vitamin C, and like Dr. Lodi said, probably most of us are deficient on vitamin C. So you want to eat things like guava, kiwi, bell peppers, strawberries, papaya, broccoli, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and so on. The thing that we are deficient in vitamin C is because we don't produce our own, like other primates also don't produce, and they eat much more vegetables than we do. So since we cannot consume as much as they do, we can juice them, or you probably need to also supplement orally. Vitamin D3 is simple, it's just get sunlight. Choose the time of the day when the sun is on its peak. Try to expose most of your skin, and at least maybe 15 minutes in the sun would be ideal. So you can actually convert the cholesterol in your skin into vitamin D3, which is a super important pro-hormone in your body. That's like a pro-hormone. Then we have the micronutrients. Magnesium, eat a lot of green leafy vegetables, sea vegetables, nuts, beans, whole grains, cacao, and avocado. Zinc, you can get it from tofu, hemp seeds, lentils, oats, mushrooms, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. And selenium, you can get it from Brazil nuts, broccoli, garlic, spinach, asparagus, mushrooms, sunflower seeds. It's interesting because only 2 to 3 Brazil nuts a day will give you the necessary amounts, daily recommended amount of selenium. So that's pretty easy to reach. And actually you cannot eat many Brazil nuts because you can get too much selenium. And manganese, again, nuts, spinach, whole grains, pineapples. So if you have a diverse whole plant-based diet, you'll probably be okay. If you want to prevent, or if you're already more vulnerable, you may want to supplement orally with some supplement that you trust. Just to finish, phrasing what the father of medicine, Hippocrates, said, let food be thy medicine and thy medicine be food. And that's it. Just allow your food to heal you, and you won't need doctors. So think as doctors should be teachers and teach you how to live so you can take better choices. And when you're educated, you have the power to choose and to heal yourself. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vanessa. Darren?
Wow, that was incredible. Thank you so much, Vanessa. We've had quite a few questions. So if we can go back to people just raising their hand, and Jen, maybe you can help direct the questions towards Vanessa.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Let me put the participation list.
I just wanted to add something, and it was really interesting what Vanessa was saying about, you know, being resistant to some of these ideas, and she'll be the first to tell you that I was very resistant to this whole idea of I won't get enough protein from not eating animal protein, and she's educated me on why, you know, it's so important to eat all of these plant-based, and as she mentioned in her presentation, I think it's really important for each and every one of us to become our own guinea pigs and to try these things out for ourselves. And the most important point that Vanessa stressed is that there's no one diet that fits all. We have to get a little bit creative with the nutrients we're doing, and try these things out.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we can start with the first questions where Kun Virinya put it in. So he said, like, I have a stomach problems and acid reflux. Is it okay for me to do a fasting?
Acid reflux and what else?
Stomach problem, what she said.
Oh, yeah. So we find that usually you can fast. You may at the beginning notice some increase in the symptoms. So you may have to take it slowly and build up little by little your periods of fasting, because when you're, what happens with acid reflux is that actually when our body is not producing enough acid, which happens to most people after the age of 40 or 50, so the valve that sits on top of our stomach doesn't close properly, and so there's a reflux of that acid through the esophagus and through the mouth. So there's not enough acidity, and then people sometimes, and doctors unfortunately, prescribe antacids, which aggravate the problem. It treats the symptom, but it aggravates the underlying issue. So when you're not eating, that still may happen for some time, but with time your body may be able to recuperate. And you may also want to consult with your physician, because probably some hydrochloric acid will help you to stabilize your production of acid within your stomach. So I would try to start trying with the time-restricted eating, and having a broader window of time when you do not eat, and you just drink water. Sometimes warm water will help to calm the stomach before really trying a water fast, because sometimes people do feel aggravated symptoms when they start water fasting and they have acid reflux.
Okay, thank you. So Darren, you want to read the Susan questions?
Yep, sorry, I'll just punch it up on my screen. The next one we have is from Matthew. Okay. And his question, a really great question. It was, is triggering ketosis the main driver of autophagy and associated with benefits of fasting, time-restricted feeding? Are there any other factors in play? So with fasting, is our main goal trying to trigger ketosis, or are we looking for other benefits as well?
We're looking to other benefits, but then definitely ketosis is very beneficial. Actually, the products, the ketone bodies produced during ketosis are very beneficial, even for our gut bacteria. So I didn't talk too much about ketosis. It's been associated now a lot with ketogenic diets, which are sometimes not well done. But yeah, once we are fasting, we enter a state of ketosis, and much of the benefits I shared here are also from this ketogenic state, where we're burning fat for fuel instead of burning sugars. We can also do this with a ketogenic diet, which Dr. Lodi mentioned, I think, last week, or if he did not. But we always think of ketogenic diets as a process that you do for about 4 weeks. It's very hard to do it, especially on a plant-based diet. It's a good way for people who don't see themselves fasting at all, or to transition. Actually, one helps the other. So if you do the fasting, it's easier to do the ketogenic diet. If you do the ketogenic diet, it's much easier to turn into a fasting, because your body is adapted to burning fat. And what takes more time and energy and effort is just being keto adapt, so adapted to burning fat. So yeah, ketosis is excellent, and is actually the only way we have to realize if people are in a therapeutical fasting is measuring their blood ketones. So past the day 2 or 3, your body is burning fat, and we can measure that on the blood. And it's also when we know it's time to stop a fast is when this body will start dropping the ketones, which means you don't have enough fat, and we don't want to burn muscle. So yeah, that's a very important thing too.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. Okay, Susan had a question. Susan wanted to know, she's got her digestive system has been abnormal lately. I think a lot of us can relate to this. Just everything's been a little abnormal lately with the current situation we're in. But Susan asked, can fasting help me with my digestion during this challenging period?
For sure. I mean, like I said, if you're having any type of digestive issue, you can only heal if you allow your digestive system to rest. So if you do fasting, you will feel better, and it's transversal. Now, what happens with many people now is that the stress level is very high, and we know that all of our digestive tract, we have about 5 pounds of bacteria. So if we're stressed, and most of our emotions and even our immune system is contained within that bacteria, so it's normal that you're experiencing problems. So you may want to address not just the physical part, but the mental part that is triggering those problems, and that's probably stress. So some techniques to manage stress, like meditation, prayer, or whatever is meaningful for you. I don't want to say here that, again, there's no answer that it's good for everyone, but finding something that will help you to manage stress. And again, try to use fasting as a tool to eat better, because I think that's the first step for us. And once things start to get on track and we eat better, we fast, we feel better, then everything becomes better, and you probably feel much better also.
That's so important what you said, Vanessa, and this is what Dr. Lodi talked about last week, as well as the psychoneuroimmunology and the link between, you know, what's going on up here, our thought process, the stress, and also our immune system and digestion as well. And well, that's a great lead in for next week. What we're going to be looking at is just some effective strategies to help deal with stress with just simply moving our body. We have another question. It's has to do with time restricted eating. Okay. So it is, how long do you recommend to get up and be active before you start eating for time restricted eating? For example, I want to start eating at 10 and stop at 4. So the window there would be 2, 4, 6 hours. What do you think about that, Vanessa? What is your recommendation on that?
That looks perfect. That's actually what we recommend to our patients. So a 6-hour window. And again, if you want to start early in the morning or later in the day, is really dependent on your schedule. And some people, for example, they want to have dinner with their family, so they prefer to have dinner than to have a breakfast. But if you eat within that 6-hour window, that means you finish on that 6-hour window, your last meal, and then you don't eat anything until you go to bed. It's perfect because you have already digested your food. You probably will sleep better. You will feel amazing. So that sounds to me like a great window. And you can even exercise when you're fasting. I always do it. And once you get used to it, in the beginning, it may take some time to adjust, but once you get used to it, you're going to find that you feel great, and you don't need to eat in order to move. So you can do your daily activities just normal, and then eat within your window that you choose. And I think that's a perfect method. Yeah. 10 to 4. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right, Vanessa, our next question is from Dave. And I'm just going to read out his question. I'm very thin. I've been that way all my life, with my weight at 85 to 70 kgs, and he's 183 centimeters tall. I'm now 80 years old, and because I have lost muscle mass and I am now 60 kgs, should I fast or not? And I don't want to steal your answer, but the whole idea of releasing the growth hormone? How important is that with fasting?
So you don't want to fast for a prolonged time or even a water. I think you can still do the time restricted eating, but maybe elongate your window a little bit more for 8 hours. But make sure you don't eat before you go to bed, 4 to 5 hours before you go to bed. So when you achieve the peak of production and release of growth hormone, which between midnight and 3 a.m., you're actually completely, your digestion is completely stopped. Your body is only producing hormones, is only resetting the clock. And so you can stimulate a little bit of that growth hormone, because in your case, you're underweight. We want to stimulate muscle growth. So we don't want to stimulate fat absorption, because anytime we are putting fat in our body, even if people may think they look healthier, but fat actually, it's where we store toxins. So we don't want to store fat. So we want to build muscle. And even at your age, the best way and the only natural ways to stimulate muscle growth is through proper sleep, fasting, and exercise. And I think Darren can then talk about exercise and how stimulate muscle growth. So we try to do the intermittent, the time restricted in an 8 to 10 hour window. Most importantly, don't eat 4 to 5 hours before sleep.
Great. Thank you, Vanessa. Is there any more questions? This is a great discussion that's coming up. And I just want to let everybody know that we are recording this, and we will send the link out as soon as the recording is done. And this is just great. And there's been so much information that Vanessa has given us. And what we're also going to do is we'll do a summary, and we'll make sure everybody gets out a summary and Vanessa's recommendations as well. Does anybody else have any questions any more questions before we stop today's session? Okay, here's another question, Vanessa. Would it be okay for a diabetic patient to practice time-restricted eating? Do we need a little bit more clarification? Is it type 1 or type 2 diabetes?
Well, I don't need clarification. If it's type 1, advise with your doctor or do it under medical supervision. So there's still people getting very good results with controlling their type 1 diabetes with fasting or with time-restricted eating. That said, I wouldn't recommend it if you're not advising with your doctor. If it's type 2, definitely it's beneficial, because if we think of diabetes as something triggered by insulin resistance, we can think of insulin as alcohol. So if you're alcohol dependent, you can only stop your addiction if you stop drinking alcohol. If insulin is your trigger and is what's creating addiction in your body, you can only stop it if you stop eating so much. So you produce insulin every time you eat. The less time you eat, the less insulin you produce, and so that will help to reverse the diabetic state if it's pre-diabetes or diabetes type 2.
Thank you. Very, very good. And this is a great lead-in too for next week. Is what we'll look at is the role of accumulating movement throughout the day to not only help manage stress, but also the role it plays on the insulin signaling pathway as well. Do we have any more questions at all?
We can have one more question.
Do we have any more pop up? I think I've addressed them all.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Vanessa, thank you so much. That was incredibly informative. Loaded with information. Very simple steps as well. Simple, easy, practical steps.
Thank you, everyone. I hope it was useful, and you can reach out to me. I mean, I'm now in Arizona, but I'm contactable, or through an Oasis of Healing where I'm working. So yeah, I'm willing to help any way I can.
Thank you, Vanessa. Over to you, Jen.
Yeah. Again, thank you. Thank you for the another great sessions from Darren and Vanessa. Also, like next week we will have another follow-up for the last sessions of the movement, right? So we will do some exercise as Darren is specialist on movement and how we move our bodies and affect our immune system. So great. Thank you all for your participations, and especially thanks to Darren to put it up together to get like Dr. Lodi and Vanessa to provide us like really
Oh, great.
Yep.
Great job, everybody. Outstanding today.